Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the Sorry I'm Booked podcast. My name is Ansley Amor, and I am the host of this podcast. Basically, I will just be talking about books, all things books, my favorite books, your favorite books, what we like about them. And today, I thought I would just talk a little bit about some of my favorite books. I have 6 favorite books, but I will only be talking about like 3 of them, because I have so much to say about all of them. But something that's interesting about this podcast also, I have a book club. It's called the Sorry I'm Booked Book Club, and it is on a app called Fable, and every month I just pick a book for us to read, and last month we read The God of the Woods by Liz Moore, and this month we're reading Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell, and then we just read it and discuss it throughout the month. It's like a normal book club, but every month, usually towards the end of the month, I think, I will be reviewing and making a podcast episode about the book that we read that month in my book club. So it's super fun. If you want to discuss that book with us, discuss that book with me, read the books for my book club, you can join it. It's called Sorry I'm Booked. It is on Fable. But enough self-promo. Let's get into the books. So I love reading. I love books. I think that's been made pretty clear. I talk about books every chance I get, on literally every social media platform I have. I just talk about books. I have a YouTube channel, and it's just my name, Ansley Amor, and I make reading vlogs, and I've made a lot of reading vlogs for these specific books, but the first book I'm going to talk about, which is one of my favorite books of all time, like usually when people ask me what my favorite book is, I have like a list of like 10 in my head that I want to say, but usually I tell them that it's Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. So I read Frankenstein by Mary Shelley in December of last year, or like November, December of 2024. And that was literally the best possible time I could have read Frankenstein, because the vibes of this book were just insane. It was so spooky, and I ended up loving Frankenstein a lot more than I thought I would, and I did make a reading vlog for it, and I did say in that reading vlog that reading Frankenstein reminded me why I loved reading, which I feel like that sounds like kind of stupid, and it probably does sound stupid, but literally I didn't expect to love Frankenstein that much. I was reading it for school, for a book club that I was in at school, and we were reading that book, and I put off starting it for so long, and I was like, I don't care, like, I'm not gonna like Frankenstein, like, I'm not even gonna read it, and then I ended up starting to read it, and I loved it so much, and one of the main things I loved about it is, like, in my head, I had this, like, idea that all classics and like just old literature in general would be like super hard to digest and difficult to read, and I would have to look up summaries of what was going on, and I just looked at it as like, this is a school book, this is a like something that I would read for an assignment, and that's it. But I started reading it, and Frankenstein is so easy to read. It was insane to me. It's so easy to read. It's like, there's like old English, sure, but it is so easy and simple to digest and read and get into. And the themes in this book, it has beautiful themes, with Victor Frankenstein creating his monster, which he calls Frankenstein, and just everything that the monster goes through. And you really, like, you feel bad sometimes for Victor, and then you also feel bad for his monster, and it's just all over the place, and it's a beautiful story, and I love it so much. And I haven't reread it yet, but I think that I really want to reread it. I absolutely love it. And the second I started reading it, I went down into like a rabbit hole of Mary Shelley and Mary Shelley's life, and like how this book came about, and I found like a Reddit post about all these rumors that like Mary Shelley like wrote a description of the story, and then her husband finished the story, and then like there's the rumor, I don't know if it's a rumor, I think it's true, that Mary Shelley and her friends were like doing a contest about who could write the best ghost story when she was really young. I think she was like a teenager, and she ended up writing Frankenstein, or part of Frankenstein, I believe, and it won like the contest that she was having with her friends, and that's how it came to be. And I love Frankenstein. Usually I tell people that it is my favorite book. I would love to read it again. I think there's definitely stuff I missed. I annotated literally every page of this book, and that's how you know that I love a book. Usually my favorite books are very heavily annotated because some people think that it like messes up your reading experience, but I think that sometimes it can enhance your reading experience because when I'm annotating, I'm like looking for things to point out or things that I want to come back to, and especially the case with Frankenstein, there were so many quotes and so many moments that were just told and written so beautifully that I wanted to come back and reread them, and I still come back and reread them and think about them, and I just think annotating is beautiful. I think this book is beautiful, and I just love Frankenstein so, so much. It is one of my favorite books of all time, and I think that it's probably one of my favorite books because I really enjoy like the classic monsters. Like if you've ever seen the Universal monster movies from like the 1930s, which is like The Invisible Man, Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula, and I'm probably missing one. But I love like I love the like iconic monster movies and like monster literature, I guess. And I guess Frankenstein is like a monster in quotes. Like he's really just Victor's creation and he's being seen as a monster. But I think Frankenstein is like, when you think of like classic iconic monsters, you think of Frankenstein and Dracula, and I haven't read Dracula yet, but it is on my fall TBR for this year, so I will be reading it. But I just think Frankenstein is so iconic, such an amazing story, told so beautifully, written so beautifully, and I love Mary Shelley, and I cannot wait to read it again, and I need to read more things by Mary Shelley. I keep seeing this like collection of works by Mary Shelley, and I want it so bad, and I need to read it, and her writing is just beautiful, and I could talk about Mary Shelley for hours on end. I think she's just an incredible author, and I love her. Anyway, moving on to the next book, which is not Frankenstein. This book, I've been thinking about this next book a lot recently, and I read it fairly recently. Like, I read this book in January of 2025, so this year. What month are we in? We're in September, so literally 8 months ago, I read this book, which is not that long ago, but it instantly became a 5-star read for me. And something you will probably notice about all these books that I'm going to talk about today, first of all, they're all very short. This edition that I have of Frankenstein looks super long, but it's a large print edition. If you're watching the video of this is a large print, so the words are literally like huge, like literally font size 20. And usually when I'm reading a book that I think is going to be harder to get into, I will get a large print edition just because it's less intimidating to me, which is probably stupid, but I don't care. But most of the books that I have on this list are very short. Like, this next book is like, how many pages is this? Like, 180 pages. They're, like, almost all these books I'm talking about today are novellas. So what does that say about me? Maybe it says that I hate reading. Anyway, also, another thing about all these books is that most of them, if not all, every single one has a film adaptation that I love equally as much. And I hate to say it, but I think that a book having a film adaptation really makes me like it more, which is so stupid, but I feel like when they have a film adaptation, I'm excited to watch the movie after I finish the book, and then when I love the book, I end up adoring the movie even more, and that's the case with Psycho by Robert Bloch. This book, it's 180 pages, it's a novella, it's so short, and I started my year off with this book because Psycho, I think, at least in my mind, Psycho is iconic. I feel like everyone knows what Psycho is. Everyone knows the movie with the Psycho movie and the shower scene and all that stuff. I had never read Psycho or watched the movie, and I really didn't know that much about it, but I bought this book when I was like I think I was 14, and I was at Barnes & Noble for my 15th birthday, and I knew nothing about it, but I got it anyway because I was like, I know that this book is what it is. It's so popular, and I wanted to read it, and I had it for like 3 years, and I literally just now read it. But I think that this book I really think it's a masterpiece, honestly. And I also think the movie is a masterpiece, but I'll get to that. So, this book is so short. I read it so fast. I read this book in like 3 days. And I also made a reading vlog for it. So, if you want to watch that, I went very in depth about everything that happens in this book. But I think I'm also going to spoil it. So, if you haven't read this book or seen the movie, just don't listen to this part. I think that this book it's told so well to where the plot twist with Norman Bates' mother is literally like the biggest plot twist you've ever read. Like, I can't remember. I've been thinking about this book so much because a new edition just came out and it's stunning. You should look it up if you haven't seen it. I'm going to post a photo of it on my Instagram, actually. It's gorgeous, stunning. I saw it at Barnes & Noble yesterday. But I can't remember if I knew the plot twist of this book before I started reading it, because I read the plot twist and I was shocked. And then after I read it, I was like, wait, I feel like I knew that was going to happen. And I feel like at this point, everybody knows the story of Psycho. Like, something weird is going on with Norman Bates' mother. I feel like everyone knows that. And I knew that too, but I didn't know the extent of, like, how mentally ill Norman was and like what was going on in his head and why he was doing all these things. And it's because his mother was literally dead the whole time. If you didn't know that, I'm sorry if I just spoiled that for you. I'm sorry. But yeah, his mother was dead the whole time, and he like had a hand in killing her. I believe he did kill her. I'm forgetting right now, but yeah, he definitely killed her and her boyfriend. He killed them both. And then he, like, went insane and thinks that she's still alive. And I just think it's told so insanely well. Like, this book is written so well. It's told to where the plot twist has maximum, like, the effect of the plot twist is so crazy because you're not expecting it. At least I wasn't expecting it. And I feel like if I was reading this book when it came out, like, forever ago. I don't know when this book came out. I do know, 1959. And the movie came out in 1960. But if I was reading this book in 1959, jaw on the floor. Like, legit, I would be gobsmacked. I would be so freaked out. Like, it's insane. And also, like, this, especially in the movie, they talk about how Norman has this disease. I think it's split personality disorder. I believe it's split personality disorder, but I don't know if that's the exact name that they called it. But that's a real thing that people have. And I know it's like super debated and stuff, but that disease, like, people have that disease. And like, imagine reading this book and the things that happen in this book being like chalked up to this disorder that Norman has. That's crazy. Like, I just think this book is amazing. Psycho's amazing. I love it so much. And the movie is so good. First of all, fun fact that I literally tell everyone, me and Alfred Hitchcock have the same birthday. I tell literally everyone I know that. But I knew that the Psycho movie was like an iconic movie. I feel like everyone knows about that movie. And I had never seen it before. And I watched it, and then I instantly put it in my Letterboxd top 4, and I've seen it, I think, once since then, but it's just I think the adaptation, like, Psycho by Alfred Hitchcock, is an incredible adaptation of this book. I think it was adapted perfectly. I think everything that happened in the movie is exactly how I imagined it in the book. And I don't know if other people feel that way, but that's how I feel about it. I think the adaptation is amazing. And there's one scene in the adaptation that I think is so good. And I talked about it in my reading vlog. But basically, it's a scene near the end of the movie where Norman has to go get his mother and hide her in the fruit cellar because the detective Nate Arbogast is coming to Norman's house to like interview his mother or like see what's going on with Norman's mother. So, of course, Norman is like, "Let me go hide my mother in the fruit cellar." Of course. And there's a shot of him, he's going into his mother's room and they're having this whole conversation and he's like, "I'm hiding in the fruit cellar. Someone's coming," all that stuff. And then the door opens and he walks out, but the camera is over him, so like you're looking down at what's going on, and he's holding his mother in his arms and you can't see her face. And like she's talking while he's carrying her down the stairs and you don't realize that that's him talking. And it's insane. Like that scene is insane. When I saw it, I was like, that is just no, like I just love it. I love that scene. I think it was shown so well that like they're hiding the fact that his mother's dead and he's hiding the fact that his mother's dead, and I just think it's amazing. Okay. Next book. This is the third book that I'm going to talk about like in depth, and then I'll tell you about the 3 other books that I love, but that is The Body by Stephen King. This book is just beautiful. This is the third book that I read when I was like getting into reading. And what happened was, here's what happened. Let me tell you. When I was like I think I was 14, I started getting into reading and I read Misery by Stephen King, which is an insane book. Insane book to start out with. I was a freshman in high school and I read Misery, and then after that I read 1922 by Stephen King, which should be 1922 by Stephen King used to be on my favorites list, and it still is. I love that book so much. But it's been knocked off. But, you know, maybe it'll be back on the list soon. But after I read 1922, I was so heartbroken at the ending of that book, and I picked up this book, The Body by Stephen King. It was the only other book that I had, and I started reading it, and I just fell in love with it. I loved it so much. It is like 100, and it's literally less than 200 pages. It's like 180 pages, and if you've ever seen the movie Stand By Me, that's what this book is. Stand By Me was based on The Body, and the reason I think that this book was so good is because it's like a coming-of-age story, but it's a lot more than that, and it has like a really morbid, kind of sad, like, undertone to it. So basically there's this group of 12-year-old boys, and they're all best friends, and this time that the book takes place is kind of like the last time that they're gonna be all together, because they're going into middle school and they're all going into like different classes and they won't really see each other that much, and they hear on the radio that a boy that they know like from school has gone missing, and they don't know where his body is. Like the police are looking for him and all that stuff. He overheard his brother talking about how his older brother and his friends found the body of the missing boy, and it was like they like said where it was. So then Gordy goes to his friends and he's like, "We should go find this little boy. Like, he deserves to be found and he deserves to like be back with his family, so we should go find him." So they all set out to find this little boy, or the body of this little boy, and they go through like this crazy journey, and it's like you're just reading about their journey to go and find this boy, and it is written so beautifully. Like this is the reason it's one of my favorite books is just because the characters are done so well, and like they're all 12-year-old boys. They're all like, I mean, what is there really to them, you know? But they all have like so much underneath the surface that you get to read about, and they all have kind of really sad like lives and home lives. Like Gordy LaChance, the main little boy, like his brother died like a few months or like a year before this book takes place, and it's just so like, it is so sad, and it's very realistic feeling, like these are real little boys. And I always say that when like I read a Stephen King book, is it feels so real because his characters just feel so incredibly real. And like he's writing about real people that experience real things. And I think when I feel like a book is real, I love it so much. Like, I used to say that. So, I have a prime example for you. I read Romeo and Juliet like 5 times in school. Like, everyone reads it every year in their English class. I read it so many times. And when I was little, like when I was like 12, I used to think that Romeo and Juliet was like real. Like, that they were real people. And like, I knew so much about them and I had read their story so many times that I felt like they were real. And the same thing that happened when I read It by Stephen King. I felt like the people, like I felt like Eddie and Billy and Stan and Bev, like I felt like they were all real. And like reading about them in the book, it's like you get so invested into who they are as a character and as a person, and you just feel like they're real people. And that's how I feel when I read Stephen King books, because I think that he's so good at doing that. And I think that's why I love this book so much, is because the little boys felt real and it felt like you were going through this journey with them. And then at the end, when they do end up finding the body of the little boy, it's like, it's so sad. And it's like you had this like super sweet, fun coming of age story. And then they find this little boy and it's all real. And it's like, what are they going to do? And it's really sad. And then the end of this book, the last line of this book, I see people quote it all the time. I see it everywhere. And it is so sad. Maybe it's not the last line. It's the last part of like the movie when he's like, nobody has friends like they did when they were 12 years old. And it's sad, and you think about it and you're like, it's true, because you hear about, what I really like is that you hear about all the kids after the fact. Like, the kids grow up at the end of this book and you get to see them as adults, because Gordy LeChance, the main boy, wants to be a writer, and this book is something that he is writing. Like, he's writing this book. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but like, that's how the book is justified, is like, Gordy LeChance is the one writing it, I believe. And you get to hear like what happened to all the other kids and like what they ended up becoming. And Chris Chambers, I believe is his name, he was played by River Phoenix in the movie. He gets stabbed, and it's so sad. Like, it literally breaks your heart. It is so sad. And I love a sad book, and which is why I love this book. Okay, I'm done yapping about these books. The next 3 books I'm going to tell you about, I'm not going to talk really much in detail about them. I'm just going to talk about them a little bit because they are like some of my favorite books, but they're not like in my top 3, if that makes sense. The first book I want to talk about is The Outsiders. The Outsiders, I just recently reread this. It's the only book that I've ever read twice, and usually I don't really reread books. Like, there are books that I want to reread. I would like to reread all of the books on this list, like these 6 books. I would be open to rereading all of them, but usually I don't reread books because I don't know. I'm like, I feel like it's not helping my reading goal. But my brother ended up reading this book for school like last year, and I wanted to read it with him, and I wanted to annotate it. And this book is a classic. It's a classic coming of age story. It's sad. It still made me sad when I read it the second time. And it's just about like the greasers and the socias, and they're like different social classes, and these kids are just growing up in these social classes, and they get into fights, and it's really sad, and the ending is really sad, and it's very wholesome, and the characters are so near and dear to my heart. Like, Johnny, whenever I see the movie, this is a spoiler, when Johnny dies at the end of the movie, literally breaks my heart. It is so sad. And especially the line, I'm gonna butcher this line, but it's like, when Ponyboy is like, I knew Dallas Winston was dead because he wanted to be dead and he always got what he wanted. That literally, I was crying in a coffee shop reading that line for the second time, and this book is amazing. And I can't believe S.C. Hinton was like 16, 15 when she wrote it. She was so young, but this book is beautiful and it's amazing. And I believe it just came out. It's like The History of the Outsiders. It's a book and it's called Stay Gold, and I need it in my life. Anyway, next one. The Invisible Man by H.G. Wells. This book, again, it's so short. This book is literally like 130 pages long. But this book is so unique, and I read this because I love, like, the old monster stories, like I've said, and I really wasn't expecting to love this book so much, and I think that I don't know if I like the movie better, but let me just talk about the story. I just love the story of The Invisible Man, which is basically about this scientist. His name is Griffin something. I can't remember, I'm sorry. They changed the name of the Invisible Man in every single Invisible Man adaptation ever, and the only thing that stays consistent in his name is Griffin, so I'm going to call him Griffin. So basically he's a scientist, and he goes to this inn to conduct science experiments, and one of the experiments ends up turning him invisible, which makes him the Invisible Man, obviously, and you basically just see how he's gonna live now and what's gonna happen. And I thought it was interesting that you get to like hear about his fiance at the end of this book, and how she's like, why would you do this to yourself, and all that stuff. And he's invisible. Like, he is happy about being invisible for a while, because he can do all these things, and he can spy on people, and he can get like information that he wouldn't be able to get if he wasn't invisible. And then his fiance comes around, and he's like upset because she will never be able to see him again, and it's like, is being invisible worth it, kind of thing. And this book was just so good. I think the thought of a man turning himself invisible through science is just crazy. It's written beautifully, obviously. H.G. Wells wrote it. He's written a lot of other very popular classic things, and I have never read another book by H.G. Wells. I believe he writes a lot of science fiction, which The Invisible Man, it does say it is science fiction. And yeah, I think it's a great story. I think it's a very interesting thing to explore and be like, you're going to be invisible the rest of your life, and just exploring that and figuring out like why this character would do that, what this character is thinking, how he's feeling, all this stuff. And I think this is a great book. I also think if you want to get into classics and you don't know where to start, I think The Invisible Man is great. And I also think Frankenstein is a great beginner's classic because it's not that hard to understand. I think I've read other classics for like school and stuff that are much more difficult, and if you want to get into them, I think I would recommend The Invisible Man first, just because it is shorter. It's literally 130 pages, but it is an amazing book. Okay, we've come to the last book on this list. It's last, but it's not least. I love this book so much. I have 3 copies of this book. I think about it quite often. I'm going to reread it soon. I forced my sister to read this book. She ended up hating it, but that's besides the point. It is The Virgin Suicides by Jeffrey Eugenides. I hope that's how you say his name. I don't know. This book, I love this book. Basically, The Virgin Suicides is about a group of girls, 5 sisters. It's the Lisbon sisters, and their names are Lux, something, 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 something. I already forgot. I literally already forgot the names of these people. Okay, let me find out for you. Oh, there's a big introduction. Okay, it's Mary, Lux, Cecilia, and 2 other names that I'm forgetting. basically this story, I think I like this story so much because of the way that it's told. This is about the 5 sisters, and they all end up dying by their own doing, and you get it from the perspective of the boys that live in the house across from them. So the neighborhood boys are like, you're getting the story from their perspective and what they think happened, and you never get the Lisbon sisters' perspective. And I think never getting their perspective makes the reader so, like, it made me so invested in what happens, and like theorizing what these girls could possibly be going through and what they could be thinking. And you don't know. You're getting the perspective of the neighborhood boys. Like, that's what you're getting. And you get to like see the boys grow up with this and how it affects their lives in the end. And okay, I'm going to read to you the last paragraph. I read this last paragraph often. I think it's beautiful. It says, "It didn't matter in the end how old they had been or that they were girls, but only that we had loved them and that they hadn't heard us calling. Still, do not hear us, up here in the treehouse with our thinning hair and soft bellies, calling them out of their rooms where they went to be alone for all time, alone in suicide, which is deeper than death, and where we will never find the pieces to put them back together." Is that not just the most thought-provoking, beautiful paragraph ever? Because you get to see that, like, the deaths of these girls affected these boys for their entire life, but you don't even know how the girls were affected. Like, you don't even know what was going through the girls' heads. And I would sell my kidney for a book from the Lisbon girls' perspective. Like, give it to me. I need a book from their perspective. I don't think we'll ever get that, but I think theorizing about what they were going through and thinking about it is just so crazy to think about. And like, why would they do this? What could possibly be going on in their lives? And you don't get to find out. Like, you just get to see it from the boys' perspective, and I just love that. I think it's very open-ended, which I like when things are open-ended and when things are like up to the interpretation. I like it because I think it makes me think about a book a lot more than if it wasn't. But yeah, I love that. I cannot wait to reread this book. I read this book like 3 years ago, I believe. And the only reason that I read it is because the cover was pretty and the book was short. And that's the only reason I read it. And I really want to read it again. But maybe I should do a video rereading all of my favorite books. Those are like 6 of my favorite books. I have other ones, but I'm trying to like narrow it down to have one favorite book, but I don't think that will literally ever happen. I don't think that I could just declare one book is my favorite because I have so many. It's like I can't pick one movie that's my favorite. I have my 4 on Letterboxd. Yeah, I love these books so much. They mean so much to me. They're my heart and soul, especially this one, The Virgin Suicides. It's just, I need to reread this book, and I need to annotate it. I annotated it very little. I put like 3 tabs in here when I read it to begin with, but I'm very excited to reread that book, dive back into that book. But yeah, this has just been me talking about my favorite books. If you like this new podcast, then you should tell your friends and review it and give it 5 stars. And also, if you want to read along with me and my book club is on Fable, and we are currently reading Then She Was Gone by Lisa Joel, which is kind of like, it's giving fall vibes, which is just so great. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe and give me a good review, and I will see you guys next week with the review of the first book club pick. All right, happy reading. Bye, guys.